If Pam Bondi's confirmation hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee is any indication, Donald Trump may finally have what he has long been looking for, an attorney general he desperately wants. Repeatedly, the former Florida AG and attorney for Donald Trump was pressed by Democrats on one of the basic pillars of the historic role of the rule of law in our country. DOJ's independence from all politics and everybody else in the executive branch, including a president. It's the thing that makes the position of attorney general completely different from every other cabinet post. Pam Bondi gave the country an indication of exactly what kind of attorney general she will be if she is confirmed very early on when she was confronted with the basic question, the answer to which is indisputable to any one of us living on Earth One. That is, who won in 2020?
Are you prepared to say today under oath without reservation that Donald Trump lost the presidential contest to Joe Biden in 2020?
Ranking Member Durbin, President Biden is the President of the United States. He was duly sworn in, and he is the President of the United States. There was a peaceful transition of power. President Trump left office and was overwhelmingly elected in 2024.
Not true, but not a surprise for Pam Bondi, who in the days after Trump lost the 2020 election by 8 million votes, had this to say.
We do have evidence of cheating, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but we are still on the ground in Pennsylvania. I'm here right now, and we are not going anywhere until they declare that we won Pennsylvania.
Pam, did you just say fake ballots?
There could be. That's the problem. If they're letting, we don't know, Steve.
Do you have you heard stories of, ballots that are fake? And if so, just tell us what you know.
Well, we know that ballots have been dumped. There were ballots that were found early on.
None of that is true. All of it is false. No ballots were dumped. There was no evidence of cheating. And if you don't want to believe me, don't. Just ask the last Trump-appointed and Senate-confirmed Attorney General Bill Barr, who said this to congressional investigators.
I told him that the stuff that his people were shoveling out to the public was that the claims of fraud were
We all know what happens in the beep, right? What Bill Barr did there, tell Trump the truth, Pam Bondi notably today didn't do. And that, of course, is the point, the whole point. It's why she was there. It's why she sat in the chair today. It's why she was a suitable second choice after Matt Gaetz flamed out. Here's what happened, though, when Bondi was asked whether she would drop a case if Trump asked her to. Bondi said this.
What would you do if your career DOJ prosecutors came to you with a case to prosecute, grounded in the facts and law, but the White House directs you to drop the case?
Senator, if I thought that would happen, I would not be sitting here today. That will not happen. Will not happen.
Except for when it does, because it already did. Here's former FBI Director Jim Comey back in 2017.
And so that's why I understood him to be saying that what he wanted me to do was drop any investigation connected to Flynn's account of his conversations with the Russians.
Quote, see to it to let Flynn go. That's what Trump said. Bondi today was also asked about her past comments on pursuing investigations into Donald Trump's political enemies. Here's a particularly testy exchange with Senator Adam Schiff.
Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Sitting here today, yes or no?
Senator, I will look at the facts and the circumstances.
You can't answer that question. You're not a part of the department yet. There's no worry about divulging law enforcement sensitive information. So just tell us, are you aware of a factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no?
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news is horrible.
Aware of a...
Do I know if he committed a crime? I have not looked.
You seem reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that question.
No, it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one
Based
has
on what
asked
you
me
know.
to investigate Liz Cheney. That is a hypothetical.
The president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president
Liz.
has
We're
called,
also worried about Liz Cheney,
The
Senator.
president has
You know
called
what we
for
should
this.
be worried about?
Ms. Bondi,
The
please
crime rate
answer
in
my
California
questions.
right now
You
is
are
through
aware,
the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
Your robberies
Ms.
are
Bondi,
87% higher than the national
my question
average.
is this.
That's what I
My
want to
question
be
is
focused
this.
on, Senator.
Do you have
So wearing her nominee hat, those were her answers. But here she is wearing just her, I don't know, Tuesday on Fox News hat. She was a lot more definitive answering those questions.
You know what's going to happen? The Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows. But now they have a spotlight on them, and they can all be investigated.
Joining our conversation, former acting assistant attorney general for national security at the Department of Justice. Now, lucky for us, an MSNBC legal analyst, Mary McCord, is here. She's the co-host of the podcast Main Justice, along with Andrew Weissman, a former top official at the Department of Justice and also an MSNBC legal analyst. Also joining us, voting rights attorney, founder of the site Democracy Docket, Mark Elias, is back. Andrew Weissman, I start with you. It's so interesting. Hegseth was yesterday and Bondi was today. And because the adaptive brain goes to relative comparisons, there was a lot of analysis about her qualifications, and that's fine. She went to law school. That's clear to me, too. But the Department of Justice is predicated on a politically unintentioned administration of the rule of law, and she couldn't make it clear that that's what she would do in the Post.
Look, she's helped by the fact that you have Hegseth the day before, and that everyone knows that Matt Gaetz was the first choice. So, you know, compared to that,
right?
You know, she's doing great. But let's just focus for a moment on the two things that you just played that struck my ear, that tells you why there are red flags here. One, in her answer about you know, who won the presidency, whether there was outcome determinative fraud, she threw in there not just that Donald Trump had a massive current win, which overplays what happened, which is concerning, but also said there was a peaceful transfer of power. We all saw with our own eyes that that is not true. So that is very concerning because it's a spin that is completely counter to a DOJ indictment and charge, and something we all saw. And the second is in response to Senator Schiff, when she throws in what we should be talking about is the crime rate in your state. That is such a political answer. If this was a political debate, if you were advising politicians, maybe that's an okay answer, right? To sort of, you know, it's a good, you know, good defense is good offense. That's not the right response for somebody who's supposed to be, the role of the Attorney General of the United States is to be dispassionate, is to be apolitical, and as she agreed with that it should be just based on the facts and the law. But those statements belie that, and it gives you, you know, a sense of that she is still, you know, whatever she's trying to portray, she still has in her all of the realness of the Fox News clips that you were playing.
What's amazing to me, Mary, is there's no political analysis that suggests that she's at risk of not being confirmed, but she'll only be successful, including in Trump's eyes, if she's able to do what she was attacking Adam Schiff for, if she's able to use the department effectively to bring cases against federal crimes and federal criminals. And she'll only be able to do that, you know, you can't do that by yourself. She'll only be able to do that if she's able to lead the vast majority of that workforce. Why have answers so detached from reality? Answers that federal judges are the ones who disagree with what Pam Bondi was saying in her confirmation hearing today.
So it's so interesting, and I wasn't able, of course, to watch the entire hearing in real time, but based on all the reporting I've seen, including your clips, it almost seems like we saw two Pam Bondis today, right? We saw the Pam Bondi who was trying to say that she believed in the independence of the Department of Justice, that she would take very seriously, her obligations when it came to investigations and prosecutions and doing those things with the dispassion that Andrew just mentioned. Yet on the other hand, every time there was an opportunity to kind of be a cheerleader for Donald Trump, she did so. And I think that, probably that's because she was playing to a couple of different audiences today. One was Donald Trump himself, and the other were the members of the Senate that have to vote on her. And so that's why I think she was resistant to questions about fraud in the election. And that's why I think she was resistant to the questions that Adam Schiff posed to her. I will say, though, one of the things that I thought Senator Schiff did that was really important at the end of the hearing, or I guess the second round, was when he posited to her, look, we're asking you these questions because we want to know if you can put your loyalty to the president aside when you're making decisions, particularly investigative and prosecutorial decisions. Now, as we all know, when it comes to policy, that's one thing. Executing the president's policy priorities are very different than individual prosecutions and investigations. And what he said to her was, there will come a day, because that day comes for everyone, where your loyalty to the president may diverge from your duty to the country as the Attorney General. And the question is, what will you do? Because that's what you will be remembered for. And I think that's really one of the key things here. And I don't know what her response is.